We are almost set for the first panel discussion on track B. And since we are almost done, I would now request our first panelist, Ms. Seema Ambastha, Senior Vice President, India and Global Business, NTT Com Netmagic, to kindly step up on stage, and I will take this opportunity to introduce her to all of you. Ms. Ambastha is a strong industry leader with experience across various roles in IT and technology areas spanning global support, pre-sales and solution and professional services. As a senior business leader with over 27 years in products and services in IT industry, she has successfully delivered solutions to industry vertical sectors like e-commerce, financial services, and telecom and manufacturing in the recent past, with deep expertise in solution around databases, data warehouse, business intelligence, big data, virtualization, and cloud services. At Netmagic, Ms. Ambastha spearheads India and global business. She is also in charge of developing and executing strategic plans to maintain existing business partnerships and develop new business relationships. Can I have a round of applause for Ms. Ambastha, please? Our next panelist is Mr. Subrata Mandal, CIO, Aliaxis Southeast Asia. Can I please request Mr. Mandal to kindly step up on the stage and take your seat? And while he's coming up on stage, let me take this opportunity to introduce him to all of you. Mr. Mandal is a BTech honors from IIT Kharagpur and an MBA from IIM Bangalore. He has completed Advanced Leadership Program from Harvard Business School and certified in Innovation of Products and Services, MITS approach to design thinking from MITS Sloan School of Management. He has over 2 decades of global experience in enterprise service management, technology solution development, consulting and delivery operations, business process transformation, and has worked in open source as well as SAP technology platforms. He has served many Fortune 25 companies. His past experience include a CIO role for a Europe-based global MNC, digital service line leader for HCL Technologies, application solution leader for Exxon UK and EMEA Geography, enterprise solution architect for IBM UK, solution delivery consultant for IBM India and Wipro. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on, please help me welcome our next panelist, Ms. Mohammed H. Kafi, Senior Executive Vice President and Head of Operations of NCC Bank. And I would request you, sir, to kindly step up on the stage. And while he's coming up on the stage, let me take this opportunity to introduce you to him. Mr. Kafi is the Senior Executive Vice President who has been heading the operations of NCC Bank and overseeing a few other divisions or departments of head office. Both a change catalyst and visionary, he has been playing a vital role in settling strategic direction or vision of the bank, having worked for almost 27 years in UK and Bangladesh. With a view for settling service and operational excellence coupled with risk mitigation, he has been working in forming and shaping the operations of NCC Bank. Mr. Kafi completed both BSc with honors and MSc in Applied Physics and Electronics from Rajshahi University. He is also a Master of Computing Science from Birkbeck College, University of London, England. Mr. Kafi has expertise in using technology to provoke business change, building valued business relationships, leading and managing transformation programs, and implementing digital solutions that grow an organization's business in new products and services. He has a passion for growing and developing talented teams that deliver great business results. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to help him welcome. Moving on to our next panelist, can I please have a round of applause for Mr. Ravi Venkatraman, Chief Executive Officer, Karvy, Innotech Limited. And while he's taking his seat, let me help all of you get introduced to him. Mr. Venkatraman is a turnaround specialist with over 29 years of experience in business development, managing India, geography, and international markets. He is the CEO of Karvy Innotech Limited, formerly known as HCL Services Limited. He has an impeccable leadership track record in the areas of enterprise business, channel Alliances management, designing specific business plans for industries like document management services and solutions, IT and IT-enabled services, telecom, office automation products, e-governance, smart world solutions, and M&A. Some of the prominent positions he has held in the past are brand head, Kelvinator, Executive Director, Xerox Corporation, www.vp and Head, Kodak, CEO of Vankrangi Softwares, Chief Sales Officer, HCL Services, National Business Head, CMS Computers, and Executive Senior Vice President and Chief of Zone of Reliance Communications. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Moving on to our next panelist, please help me welcome Mr. Arup Datta, the Director of Academia Industry Collaboration at Adamas University, on the stage, please. And while he's taking his seat, let me introduce him to you. A chartered accountant by profession, Mr. Datta practices and professes ERP solutions-led business transformation and business process improvement assignments. He has been in management consulting role for the most part of his career of 21 years. Currently, he's the director of Adamas University, looking after academia industry collaboration. He's trying to expose the students on the latest industry thoughts and trends so that they can experience the latest technologies and learn the practical applications. This leads me to our next panelist. Please help me welcome on stage Mr. Abhijit Shukla, Business and Alliance Head, Global Partner Business Management Department, Huawei Telecommunications Company Private Limited. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, and let me introduce him to you. Mr. Shukla carries more than 20 years of diversified experience in multi-industry, multi-geography environments, led many technology initiatives as a delivery lead, sales leader, and alliances leader. Currently, he heads the Business and Alliance for Global Partner Business Management Department, Enterprise Business Group, Huawei Telecommunications Company Private Limited. He carries an excellent understanding of how to leverage IT as an enabler for maximizing optimization across verticals and has a good understanding of new age solutions like IoT, AI, bots, AR, VR, BDA, blockchain, etc. And finally, our last panelist for this session, please help me welcome on stage Mr. Amarpreet Singh, Solution Architect, Intelligence India Software Solutions Private Limited. Hello and welcome, sir. And let me introduce him to you. Mr. Singh comes with over 10 years of experience in the SAP world and has been working in multiple roles as a technical solutions architect, customer engagement manager, and delivery manager with a wide range of SAP customers. Currently working as the lead delivery manager for consulting project in the Middle East and APAC region. He's able to provide his viewpoint on how SAP or intelligence is ready with the next step in digital transformation in what has been labeled as the technologies that enable intelligent enterprise. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would now introduce the chairperson of this session, Mr. Joydeep Datta Gupta, partner and board member, Deloitte Touche Tohmatsu India LLP, to kindly come on stage, please, sir. And while he's taking a seat, please help me introduce him to all of you. Mr. Datta Gupta is a partner and a board member of Deloitte Touche Tohmatsu India LLP. He is also the regional practice leader for the East region in India. Mr. Datta Gupta has more than 30 years of consulting experience, which includes business strategy, business process transformation, large ERP implementations, human capital consulting and outsourcing, and shared services advisory. And from now, can I please request Mr. Datta Gupta to kindly take the proceedings forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to our audience. And I see a pretty packed house. As we start, I have some good news and some bad news. Okay. The good news is that we have a very august panel with us this afternoon, okay, as you could make out from the profiles that were shared with you. The bad news is that we are already 15 minutes behind schedule, and the panel is so august that in reading out the CVs, we have consumed the time already, right? Okay. So perhaps now we can ask Khalida to come up on stage and thank all of us, right? And then we can catch up with the time once more, right? Having said so, we should not lose this opportunity with such an august panel to share some of the experience. The topic of discussion is enterprise service management and the impact that artificial intelligence and IoT has on enterprise service management. Okay? Traditionally, what we found is that what is enterprise service management all about? Okay? There are human beings who have some problem, okay? And they will raise a ticket, so to say, and another set of human beings will sit there and they will try and figure out what is the solution to those tickets or those problems, and there'll be a set of people who will schedule that service, okay? And then there'll be another set of people who supervise a set of people who schedule the services, right? And then everyone will pat themselves on the back at the end of the month because they'll produce an MIS which says that, you know, I received so many tickets and we achieved such a turnaround time and we're doing well, right? So this is the traditional process, okay? But now technology offers us the opportunity to take it far beyond that, okay? So now you can imagine a context where, and why imagine? I mean, this is a reality today, where human beings won't need to raise the tickets, okay? The device itself will raise the tickets, okay? Thanks to IoT, okay? So we have devices which are self-generating what's wrong with them or what is likely to be wrong with them in the future, okay? And then that goes to the back end, and then we don't have humans there, okay? Again, a set of artificial entities which will do the scheduling, okay? And which will find the solutions, okay? Will schedule what needs to be done, okay? And there'll be an engine which will also tell you, will predict in advance. You don't have to wait for a ticket. You know that there's likely to be a failure in such and such a device, right? And it'll analyze the data from across millions of devices all over the world and will identify the trends and will identify where there is likely to be a failure, okay? And so on and so forth, okay? So the whole space is completely altering, okay? And leading to remarkable achievement of metrics which were never possible before in terms of customer satisfaction levels, okay? The intensity of competition, because now service differentiation is much to do with how you compete and how you differentiate yourself, okay? Huge reductions in costs. And we've had, at Deloitte, we've had the privilege of working with several clients in some of these areas. And there are some remarkable examples of the progress that has been made. So with these few words, I'd like to request our panelists to educate us on this subject as well as to share some stories, okay? Because one of the trends that we are seeing now, the technologies are out there, okay? But it is for us to think out of the box and create use cases, to create applications, okay? And so differentiation is now much to do with how we can conceptualize the applications which will differentiate our service from somebody else's service, okay? So the limitation now is not technology, because technologies you can buy, but what are you going to do with it? So I hope some stories will emerge on across, you know, we've got panelists here representing different industry groups, okay? So we can get some examples of what they are doing, and that can help us to shape our thinking on some of the things that all of us can do. We also have on the panel some of our service providers or technology providers who can educate us on the technologies that are available in this space and the next generation of technologies that will emerge in this space. So as a first speaker, I'd like to request Mr. Subrata Mandal to give us a backdrop, to introduce the subject and give us a backdrop and give one or two examples.
Thanks, Joydeep, and thank you all for our session here. So let me qualify the enterprise service management a bit, and I would not be technical to a large extent, try to speak in a layman's language to the extent possible. But before that, I think being in Kolkata, need to say something about Kolkata, especially for the Bengalis. and to all of my friends. I was just sharing a joke with Joydeep on the speaker's lounge. I think there is one special characteristics for all Bengali names, that for the Bengalis only in the world, A stands for orange and not apple. Okay. So that's the first definition. Coming back to the topic, enterprise service management. What is it? It's a very vague term, but let's try to see. So as we are becoming more and more digital, everything is becoming human. In fact, the topic of our conference this year, is digital becomes human. So everything is becoming human. So like everyone else, everything that you see will have some kind of service needs. What are those? When you look at from enterprise context, there are primarily 4 dimensions. There is and these dimensions will cover all the industries across the industry sectors. What are those? First and foremost, there would be machines or devices, depending on which industry you are. Co-manufacturing machines, service industries, lots of devices doing a lot of activities supporting you. Second one is the people. Third one would be your customers, vendors, and the partners. And fourth one is your IT infrastructure, applications, and so on and so forth. Now, each of these dimensions, when we are increasingly becoming connected, living in the connected world, each of these dimensions will have a lot of service needs. So the question is, how do we resolve those service needs? Shall we just think of only resolution? No. Can we think little bit far up, maybe few steps ahead? When we are increasingly digital, can we think of how do we detect those service needs automatically? We are living in a connected world. I'm trying to stitch some points around the stories, and I would request some of my panelists as well as the audience to contribute to our discussions. So can we detect those service needs automatically across all the 4 dimensions, be it the machines or devices, or the people, or the customers, vendors, or the IT applications and infrastructure? If we can I move to the next step? And that's having detected, how do I resolve, but not resolution? How do I identify the right expert for the resolutions? And therefore, the question comes called assignment. How do I assign that service needs to the right experts? Only if these 2 steps are completed, then only the resolution comes in a much more reasonable way, what my customers or either the external customers or the internal customers understands or become happy. But once resolution done, that's not the end of the story, my friends. Experience, measure the experience of your resolution, feed back into your loop and see how you can improve it day in and day out. So therefore, these things are becoming important. And now if I add the dimensions of artificial intelligence and IoT, you can see IoT helps us getting the data across all the dimensions that I have just now said. Artificial intelligence helps us to build some amount of learnings. And I would like to correlate with the same way when we are all babies, tried to learn how to walk, how to speak, how to understand the letters, how to frame the words and the sentences, and then finally started taking decisions. How I can use my platforms or my solutions to build in some amount of intelligence components into it so that all these 4 steps that I have mentioned, detect automatically, assign automatically, resolve automatically, measure the experience, and improve the experience automatically. Can it happen? So I leave it with that. I have got some of the use cases and the success stories which I will talk in the second time if I get permit or over the tea and coffee. But with this, I will leave it to some of my panelists to share their experiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Subrata. I must say that was a very lucid explanation of what this whole subject is all about. From a so-called layman, he calls himself a layman, IIT Kharagpur, I am Bangalore, Harvard, right? Thank you very much, right? We'd now like to move on to Mr. Arup Datta and to share some stories from his present world. He started off with a different world. I mean, you would have heard that he's a chartered accountant, and he spent many years in financial technologies, right? Yeah. And in helping various service, the accounting departments improve their service to their customers. Okay? And now he's morphed into a different world as well. So he has many stories to share. So I request Arup to share some of them.
Thank you, JDG, and good afternoon. JDG, I'll start with one of the poems that we learned during our school days. It is The Charge of the Light Brigade by Tennyson, and some of the lines are, cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, and cannon behind them, volleyed and thundered, and all in the valley of death rode the 600. I think most of us who are in the service industry or in some way in consulting have faced similar situation while going to the client's place, and we understood the importance of enterprise service management. During our firefighting days, during deadlines and targets. So when I had a chance, I had an opportunity to work with the university students and the faculties. Now that I am in Adamas University, I had that opportunity of looking things from a different perspective, and I have this independence. So we are now working on some of the use cases of AI and IoT. For example, what we did, we started smart classes and smart campuses, which we started from the class scheduling. And then now what happens when there is a class schedule assigned to a classroom, now before 15 minutes at the start of the class, the notification goes to the faculty and the students, and then the lights and the ACs and the projection systems were switched on automatically with the device. And even if the content is available, that's actually loaded on the projection system. And then again, just at the end of that schedule, that 1 hour, again a notification goes to the faculty whether he would and she would like to continue with the class. Otherwise, it will get switched off. And that's how we are trying to save energy, and also we are doing away with the facility management in a better solution. So that's one of the case that I would like to share. The second thing which one of a few of the students of our robotic clubs did, it's actually a smart dustbin where they have used sensors, and the dustbin can actually recognize the clapping of the hand, and it goes and it accepts the garbage, and it can also sense the amount of garbage, and before it gets filled up, it actually goes to the nearby vat and it empties out the garbage. And it also has the detection system by which it can actually sense the levels, the flow levels, so that it stops and then it takes a turn to get into a different level. So that's another use case. The third one we are trying to implement is we are trying to use Amazon Echo as a personal assistant, where we are connecting Amazon Echo with the ERP, so that the CFO, the head of accounts, if she wants to get the revenue details, the forecast, so that in due course of time she will get all the revenue details, where the Amazon Echo will work with the background algorithm and the ERP and will extract the data and get back to the CFO. So that's another one. The fourth one which we are doing is on the smart parking, using again the GPS and the drone. We are trying to actually monitor the parking area, the parking lot, with our portal, university portal, so that anyone today can actually book a parking based on the available slot, and the sensor will actually read the car numbers and would guide the car to that parking lot. So these are some of the examples which I would like to share. There are a few others. For example, today we are using AI to actually monitor the performance of the students based on their psychometric tests, given their career objective and the stream that they are in. The AI actually is guiding the students or telling the faculties how the students is performing by extracting minute details of their performances. And it's a continuous monitoring. So these are some of the cases that we are trying to do.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for bringing this to life with real-life examples. We have been colleagues had been colleagues for many years, and I did not know that you have this love for poetry.
No. Actually, just to mention, actually, JDG interviewed me 21 years back and actually introduced me to the frying pan.
Right, okay. So you gave an example of lighting, And for our audience, you'll find a very good use case on YouTube of Philips Lighting and what they have done. It is amazing. Okay? With that, we'd like to move from the campus to the banking sector. And the banking has always been an industry that has possibly been the highest consumer of technology and always at the forefront of using technology. So I'd like to request Mr. Kafi to share with us some of the initiatives that are taking place in the world of banking.
Thank you, Joydeep. It's a wonderful experience to visit Kolkata, which is close to our hearts in many ways. And I'm thankful to Infocom for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to come. Banks, you know, we're under pressure with the GAFA effect, and especially the payment systems offered by Google, Amazon, PayPal, and Apple. The millennials, 73% of them don't think there is a need for banks, and they expect solutions from all these GAFA fintechs. So constantly, that has become a threat for banking industry, which is a pretty much service industry, and it's a good consumer of technology. You know, Bill Gates, not very recently, he said, banking is important, but bankers are not. That has put extra pressure on us. I would give you one, when we talk about IoT and machine learning or artificial intelligence, some call it automated intelligence, because artificial intelligence would take a lot of cognitive human intention to predict and come up with reasoning and so forth. My good old friend in the UK, friend Stratus, once he shared a story with me, and this is kind of his personal story, but I would share it anyway. And he was thinking of, he and his wife Julia was thinking of having a baby. And he was saying, Mohammed, you know what? I'm measuring her temperature every day. And with respect to all the ladies. And I say, why is that? And I said, well, you know, when the temperature goes high, that's the time that I should have intimacy with her. Because that's the time that, you know, we get a baby boy. That's what they wanted. And after 3 months, he said, well, I've got a good story. We think we're going to have a baby boy. So I wish that, you know, machine intelligence or AI and IoT was there to give him that insight that when to become intimate with her wife. Anyway, I think the subject is interesting, and it's actually quite scary. When we manage technology, apart from business operation, we are pretty scared. You know, we set all sorts of firewalls in terms of protecting ourselves, in terms of cyber attacks, in terms of unpredictable behavior within the bank, and of course by the customers. We talk about intelligence using AML solution, and we talk about measuring or analyzing transactions on a daily basis. And this is purely happening through applications, through servers, and pure technology, we call it. When you think of IoT, when devices, sensors talk to each other, they generate data, then now that poses a serious risk. Is for us, if you like, what kind of a strategy I need, what kind of data strategy I need, and data accuracy and data trust kind of thing I need. Because this big data which is there, and which is going to be the building blocks in terms of applying AI, I need to know what is happening, because I'm already scared. What is my customer doing through the net, through my mobile app, through digital inclusion, and so forth. In terms of what we are doing, and probably it's fair to say that, you know, many banks in the world, including Indian banks, you know, there is a lot of talk of chatbot, which is kind of AI, not necessarily an AI tool, because I think AI to some extent has been hijacked by tech companies. Without the cognitive one, it is the algorithm based, you know, which is purely based on data, We have the chatbot, which is also helping banks, and even the HDFC has one chatbot, and IBM Watson is being used by SBI. I get the impression. But the bank that I represent, we are working manifold in terms of providing service. One is on the IT industry, the IT platform, in terms of measuring what is happening with the devices, in terms of measuring the calls, and if we can actually reduce the call with the presence of people and use technology to some extent to the first level of support and also to generate alerts. That's happening to small scale, if I may say so. The other hand, what we are doing is in terms of providing service, which is either branch-based service or service through mobile app. So we are building chatbot, which is either like Bank of America has come up with Erica, you know. We are building something for our mobile app so that, you know, first-hand support in terms of if someone says, well, I'm thinking of deposit, then it comes up with a lot of questions. What kind of deposit? Is it going to be investment? You want to transfer? Then give us the accounts, and it has got all the APIs, if you like, connected, and it generates all these transactions. So that automation, if you like, in the minuscule level helps to reduce cost at the same time, or probably reduce attrition in terms of customers. The other area is we're working on loan origination, where the risk grading, we're trying to get some sense of intelligence. I would not use the word artificial intelligence. I think it would be, even if it is artificial intelligence, it would be automated intelligence, rule-based things in terms of risk grading. If we can get some sense out of that, that would help us in terms of to know which way to invest, and in terms of probability of default, so which would save the investment from the bank's perspective. The other area, before I actually end and let others to talk, is we are trying to get the sense of how to improve service and get feedback, and as well as presence of customers in the branch using sensors and analyzing how often they visit, what kind of inquiries they have, and if I can automate those to some extent. If we can work with augmented technology and probably allow customers to initiate transactions from their home or from their mobile, that would save their time and probably help us to reduce attrition. So I think with that, I again thank Joydeep and let others to talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You brought in a new dimension, which is the security dimension. So with all these devices generating so much data, clearly there's a security angle to this, okay? And also a management angle. How do you manage all of this? You also introduce a new element of looking at profiles of people who are walking in. You know them, right? And then predicting. Yeah, and the question is, how well do you know them? Can you predict their needs? And can you proactively address their needs before they explicitly ask for something, right? And these are things which the banking industry has to think about a lot, because now a banker is no longer somebody who gives you a loan, or who you have to keep happy because they give you a loan, or someone who keeps your money safe and invested. A banker is a lot more. You have to compete very fiercely with not only other banks, but with so many other different types of technology-based businesses that are coming up. So knowing your customer is very critical, and differentiating, and that's the role that technology can play in predicting needs based on analyzing who is your customer, what is the likely need, what are the profile, typically what does this profile want, and so on. So thank you, that was a very fascinating exposition by you. I'd now like to request Amarpreet Singh to share some of his stories and experience.
Thank you so much. Is this on? Okay, so I'd like to discuss the adoption part of these technologies. And so first I'd like to say, I'm from the SAP world, the name that SAP gives to these intelligent set of applications is SAP Leonardo. And the way they project it is that the AI that can be achieved is through a set of applications, and some of these applications are, for example, blockchain. We've discussed that. And one very important part of it is IoT, which is also part of SAP Leonardo. And another one, which is the most important bit, according to me, is the machine learning part of it. And out of all these IoT devices and all these ERP systems that we have, lots of data comes out of it. And analytics is an important part of AI, as we see, intelligent data that gets generated out of it. Now that we have a name that can help us achieve this artificial intelligence, one of the important part about adoption would be, we'll always have people who innovate with any technology, and then we have people who would be early adopters of what innovation has happened. And then we can also say that there would be a majority of people, early adopters, or we call it majority adoption. Or there would be people that go with the late majority. And then there would be people who just try to catch up, and they're late to the, into the game. So so now that we have a platform where we say SAP Leonardo is able to achieve AI in a certain way, and things have been said where we say that a part of this is still in the future. But I would argue that it's already here. For example, 2 years back when SAP Leonardo was newly launched, Itelligence had created a hackathon where we gave access to these new technologies to our consultants. And one of the technical team had come up with an example using very basic sensors. One of those sensors was a GPS tracker and an ambient temperature sensor, right? So what they did was they connected the two, and they connected it to the internet. And now imagine this device being put into a food truck which delivers food, and temperature is an important part of it. And let's say it has to cover a certain amount of distance before it reaches its destination. And because it's a frozen truck, and once it leaves its destination, once we are able to track its whereabouts, that's very common. But with using the ambient sensor on that device, if we are able to see that what's the temperature of that food truck, right? And let's say there was a malfunction that happened, and somehow we realized that the freezer has stopped working. The driver would not know it. He would continue to drive. He would reach his destination, and he would realize, oh, everything's gone. So he has to come back. We've wasted resources, we've wasted money, we've wasted time. But if with this sensor, a notification would immediately go out that the temperature has gone below what is acceptable, and immediately somebody would call the driver to say, just return back immediately. So that's a very good use of what we have. Similarly, now this is something that we've come up with. A raw set of tools are available to us through which we are able to achieve, using IoT and machine learning and data analytics and everything. A similar thing was demoed by SAP and in the latest TechEd that happened. And what they did was they used all of this information. And the information that they used was, first, they had image processing software that was able to look at physical copies of invoices and was able to create SAP transactions directly with it. So nobody has to manually enter those. Now, one of the major activities that every business does is month-end closing. And one of these activities is reconciliation of all the accounts receivables against what has been received, right? And that's a very manually intensive task. And the reason for that is, for example, you may be doing business with one customer, and you've raised multiple invoices with them. Now that customer may not pay you in the same amount of transactions for you. So for example, if you've done 5 transactions, they may pay you in 1 transaction. So tallying each record against a receivable is a huge task, and it has to be done every month end. Now, with machine learning, SAP has demoed that these tasks, based on what you do every day, it is able to automatically look at different customers and see how much amount was spending, and it is automatically able to do all this together and reduces the task that has to be performed manually by looking at these transactions to the bare minimum, where it only leaves the parts which are doubtful for a manual intervention. Right? So that's quite amazing. One of the important points here is that the adoption of any technology, and I think this example comes up in every new technology that is put forward into the public. And what they say is that when the first prototype of an airplane was built, it was in 1901, I believe, and they had done a successful test, but they said that it's fine, we've done a successful test, but it's not scalable at all. If we really need to make something, make it viable, it would need another 50 years, right? And history has proved that within 2 short years, 1903, there was an actual plane that was available and that was able to make a flight, and it was sustainable. So in the same manner, I believe AI, which I feel is being portrayed as more of a future of technology, I believe it's present, it's available, and it's up to us if we want to be an early adopter or a late adopter. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Amarpreet. You brought in several new dimensions, including what SAP is doing in the space, automatic reconciliations. Possibly we'll see more and more of system-generated transactions, and then the system will keep generating transactions, reconcile these transactions, and there will be no need for auditors anymore, or the auditor will also be artificial, right? Right? Do you predict that future? No, you don't. Thank goodness. Okay. With that, now I'd like to request Mr. Ravi Venkatraman, who is a very charismatic personality, to share from his experience. But there's one condition in Bangla.
All yours. Yeah, hi, good evening. Thanks for A for Orange, right? So I had this, way back in '86, I started my career in Kolkata. For a very long time, I tried to connect a lot of my friends. My name is Ravi, and they kept on calling me Robi. It continued for some time, and when I moved out of Kolkata, I used to introduce myself to people, "Hi, I'm Robi." "You mean you are Ravi?" Yeah, I'm Ravi. So it continued with me for some time. Thanks, Joydeep. I think it's very interesting. When we talk about artificial intelligence and IOT or machine learning or deep learning, there's one proverb comes to my mind, which is very popular in Bengali. Gofetel, gochekata. Right? As simple as that. So let me give some practical aspect to that. I think human being, we are 7.6 billion people in this planet, right? An average human being generates about 2,750 words a day. When I read this data, I want to tell people, come to West Bengal, you'll understand how much we speak. Okay, there's a different dimension to it. We had this experience of acquiring a technology company recently. Many people associate Karvy to the financial industry name. Then we bought one of the subsidiary of HCL Infosystem, HCL Services Limited, which we acquired early this year. When we acquired this company, there were about 3 or 4 challenges which we went through in terms of understanding about people, processes, and technology. We acquired plus 3,000 plus people in the system, and our process of doing the service management to the end customer is always using people. We call them T&M, we call them help desk management on the floor or on site, and multiple other things we try to do. And today I can tell you there are about 3 distinctive challenges which is still prevailing in the enterprise market in this country. One, none of the CIOs or the CTOs in this part of the globe is willing to do away with the manpower. He would like to see the face again and again, time and again. He's willing to change a vendor, that means a service provider, but he's not willing to give away the manpower. And it took a lot of time for us to, in terms of going and encouraging the customers to understand, it's important to bring standardization in your services experience, which will never be possible to deliver the amount of data which you're talking about, which you generate between 2 machines talking to each other, right? Similarly, the kind of a work which we need to do in the service management, you will not be able to get the standardization of service experience across the country. A graduate from West Bengal is absolutely different than a graduate from Maharashtra. A graduate from Maharashtra is completely different than a graduate from Tamil Nadu, right? All of them B.Tech engineers, right? So you need to bring them, put them in one room and bring in standardization, humanly not possible. So the second question the 3,000 plus people asked me, now you bought my company, am I going to lose my job? It's not a very easy thing to answer to them. We said, no, you're not going to lose your job. Instead, you are going to get upskill. There is 1.3 million people, let's understand this very clearly, those who are engaged in service management, delivering this country, and this country needs upskilling them. What does it mean? There is not going to be job losses on account of artificial intelligence or IOT or machine learning or deep learning. There are going to be multiple roles which is going to get created. We as a country, I'm talking only from the domestic perspective, are we ready to face that? My answer to that is not. So what we have done is we went and invested in automation. My team is sitting here, my R&D is also here. We went and invested in terms of creating an automation platform. I don't want to call it as artificial intelligence, I would call it automation, and supported with tools, which is nothing but IoT. We did a sample size of about 12 enterprise customers. We went around, implemented the automation and IoT, and I can proudly tell you, in the past 8 months of dealing with those customer experiences, the amount of bots which you spoke about, right? The amount of customer traffic which is walking in 101 branches, which you have, you said that? Huge, 101 branches. There's a gentleman sitting here called Ramesh Kandapan can give a solution to you. I'll ask him to talk to you. Pose this, right? It's very easy. It's kids' game. We are there. So delivering this using the existing set of people by upskilling is the only solution. Let's understand that very clearly, right? It's not, something is not going to happen as a magic wand overnight in this country. If you want a service management experience to be unique, if you want service management experience to be standardized all across, adopting automation and tools is inevitable. In order to go there, as you rightly said, you still need human interference to auditing, right? You need to understand the accounting standards of Ind AS, what you talk about, you need to understand that. But unfortunately or fortunately, the skill gap, which is going to emerge in the next 3 years' time by 2020, in terms of handling the change which is happening in the automation and tools, which is going to create a connected world, and amount of traffic which is going to get created in the service management experience is huge. Companies like us, we are investing in it today, Joydeep. I can tell you that our experience of dealing with customers is very good. I can take one example of Amar Bengal. I was with one of the enterprise customer last week. We went and made a fantastic presentation. You know, we said automation, we said tools, and bring your service management experience standardized across the locations, everything. We want to pen down the contract, and then he simply said only one thing. Hey, Ravi, I've been working with these 15 people. I mean, he called me Robbie. I'm correcting myself as Ravi. We are working with 15 people, and they are with us for the past 7 years. Don't take away their jobs. Trust me. So adoption is important. Someone was telling in the morning, the managing director of ABP was presenting, your next trillion is not going to come out of your people. Your next trillion is going to come out of how fast you adopt to the technology, how fast you can embrace tools and automation. And that's the only way where you can multiply your return on investment. That's the only way where you can be ahead of the game, be in banking industry or manufacturing or services industry. My estimate, which I've been writing in my blog quite heavily, is that the roles will multiply, but the jobs might decrease over a period of time, because you got to be ready to face the role. Having said that, the $1 trillion is going to emerge out of artificial intelligence and IoT. Once again, Khalida, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this panel. I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you, Joydeep.
Thank you. You've brought out some very interesting dimensions, the people dimension, the end of empire building, right? And you built a very strong case for not just intelligent devices, but intelligent human beings, which is very refreshing. Thank you.
Welcome.
So after that talk by Robida, I'd like to now request Abhijit Shukla.
Thank you, Joydeep. Though Robbie has already gone ahead, I think very much summarized everything what it could have said. I'll cover a few perspectives from enterprise service management. See, when we look at enterprise service management, one of the key things which is required is keeping the customer at the center. Now, whether it is internal customer or external customer. And when it comes to the customer, we all, who all have faced customers, know very well that there is no end to desires, and desires needs to be fulfilled. And when we face that, there is tremendous amount of pressure on the teams which are delivering the service. Now, since the businesses are very volatile in nature today, they are changing very fast. Somewhere, some industries are developing very fast. So obviously, to fulfill the requirement, there will be a need for services to be delivered quicker, with more agility, having optimized the resources, and at the same time, without additional cost pressures on the service providers. Now, how do we do that? So typically, I think all of us would have experienced cases where, let's say, you are raising a support ticket. When you raise a support ticket, you want the resolution as on yesterday. And the service provider has its own timelines. Yeah, and which is very frustrating. It's frustrating for all of us. I mean, even if I'm calling, let's say, a credit card company and I want some resolution on something, and if I'm given a timeline of maybe 4 hours, I feel frustrated. Why 4 hours? Why not now? Probably because the person you're speaking to, he's not skilled to answer all your questions. He would have to refer to different teams. He would have to go ahead and do scheduling, as Joydeep said earlier. And there's a long process which needs to be followed. Now, can we shorten this process? Yes, we can. So bringing in AI, the process gets shortened. And every time there's a new query which comes up, the machine learns. It learns automatically, and it becomes faster. That's the whole concept of artificial intelligence. So I think we can safely say that with artificial intelligence coming into enterprise service management, yes, we will be faster to deliver. Will it be cheaper? Maybe, but over a period of time, if we have a great amount of adoption. So the moment we hit a critical mass, maybe it'll become cheaper. Today, many organizations are using bots, and bots are not very expensive. And they are very, very productive, yes. Will we lose jobs? Yes, we will lose jobs. It is estimated that by, say, maybe 2020, the world will see at least 1.8 million jobs lost. But at the same time, it's very encouraging to know that by that time, there will be 2.3 million jobs generated. But these jobs which are generated, as Ravi said, that these are going to be a differently skilled people. People who are skilled on AI, people who are skilled on IOT, machine learning. So there is a huge change which is coming. There's a huge impact which we can foresee coming. It's time to embrace that impact. That impact will be good for business because business will never stop. Companies will adopt these technologies today or tomorrow, maybe slower or faster. Some will grow faster. Those who will adopt faster, maybe they'll grow much faster. Even in the time of, from a service provider's perspective also, if we go ahead and adopt these technologies faster, we'll be more preferred from the customer's perspective. So it's up to us, how do we look at it? Now, similarly, when we are maybe fixing our goals for the service providers, that's also something which we are going to put in our KRAs, which is not there today. Yeah, so things will change. Measurement criteria are going to change. So I think that's where I'll stop. There's a lot to talk about, but then the time's really short. Thanks, Joydeep. I'll cut short.
We can keep at it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Abhijit. That leads us to our last panelist, Seema Ambastha, right? Who will have the last say on this subject.
I will have the last say. Thank you so much. Good evening. I was preparing for about 2 days thinking what to speak, but let me tell you, given the last chance, and after hearing, I know exactly what to say in next 2 minutes. Abhijit said by 2020, 1.8 million jobs. I'm one of them, guys. You can count me. I'm losing my job. Okay, so I want to come back to the subject, right, which said AI on ITSM. I think I'm going to answer that question in 3 lines. Number one, from our experience, from my experience, and I'm not talking as a service provider, I'm generally talking as, a person who consumes a service, right? Number one, I think incident and response, the most important fundamental, I like to talk fundamentals, not something at 30,000 feet. I think it's very important to stay with fundamental. the fundamental difference that it's going to make to incident and response. I will tell you today, we have 2,000 tickets. If you ask me, in our system, does people know which is an incident and which is a request ticket? I think they're confused. Many of the times, I have request as incident, incident as request, putting off the customer. I think that's fundamental, very, very important. AI can make a fundamental difference there. Number two, process automation. We talk so much of automation. Why is it required? With so many devices floating, connected homes, autonomous cars, I don't know, natural language processing, computer vision, I have countless number of them. Imagine the amount of devices producing so much amount of data. It is humanly impossible to process this data with human today, and therefore, you need automation. And this automation is to ensure that you can take right decisions, but not to give it an ability to take a decision. Because I can narrate another incident where your stock prices can dive down if you leave machines to take decisions, right? So that's number two. How does it impact knowledge? Number three, I think there is a universe of AI that is available to you. Today, the knowledge management with universe of AI is going to be very different in quality as compared to what you see as a traditional knowledge that you put in, right? So these three most important things which come out of AI, machine learning, and deep learning is going to change the way we service customers. My simple example, somebody said, Echo from Amazon, Arup, you're going to be slaughtered. Alexa, Echo from Google. Okay, Alexa. So just look at this. Today you say, Alexa, where is my key? Play this music. Just imagine tomorrow you leave your home without a car key. Alexa can stop and say, you have forgotten your keys. That is AI, right? This is about little automation. So it is going to make a difference. So I'll just conclude by saying only one thing. I take cues from all these, right? The most important thing is the world is going to change and change very rapidly than what you say in the last 300 years and next 20 years. If you want to wait and watch, then you're waiting to die. So it's important, you know, to look and take some of these projects very seriously, even if it means a small step, right? Thank you. That's been my experience, right? Thank you very much. Over to Joydeep.
Thank you so much for that very practical wisdom around this, okay? And that clear warning to all of us that, look, we need to serve our customers, and if we don't, then we are going to be out of business. And serving customers is becoming increasingly complex because of volumes of data, and the differentiator will be those who know how to use that data and those who don't know how to use that data, okay? So we need to get cracking. We are now going to give you a very practical demonstration, okay, of how this works in practice, which is, if you switch on your phones, you'll find that we have already predicted your questions, and our bots have already answered those questions. So check your WhatsApp, check your Facebook, check your Twitter, and check all of that, and you will find that we've predicted your questions and answered all your questions. And on that note, we'd like to end. Thank you very much.
I would request all of you to kindly stay back for a while, and thank you so much for that last sentence coming up from the moderator himself. And I would now request Mr. K.K. Mahapatra, Organizing Secretary and Head of Infocom ABP Private Limited, to kindly step up and present mementos to all our dignitaries and all our panelists present for this session. Thank you, Ms. Ambastha. Thank you, Mr. Mandal. Thank you, Mr. Kafi. And such happy faces. Love to see them after a session as such. Thank you, gentlemen. It was definitely a very, very enlightening address and a panel discussion. Thank you so much.